Just set them right over here so they're out of your way.
You had a busy day today?
Very busy. Very busy week. We are going non-stop. I've got hours and hours and hours of lessons every day all week. So,
Oh boy.
yeah, I'm trying to do a bunch of stuff, but it's good. It's a good problem to have, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a sign that you're really connecting with people.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, the feedback we've gotten, especially with the roadshow videos and filming the lessons and stuff, people see just how simple stuff really is when you boil it down to the way that we teach it, you know? So it's been really cool to see how people have responded to that, because I think so many people are so frustrated, man. You know, golf is like, gotta be, out of all the things I've done, I mean, I was a snowboard mountaineer professionally when I was 19 for 4 years.
No
at the
kidding.
North Face. Yeah, I was stupid. I was trying to be the first to climb and snowboard all the 14,000 foot peaks in Colorado. And I did 35 out of 54, and then I'm like, they're not paying me enough for this. This is dumb.
Right.
So that's when I started focusing on golf. And then I turned pro at golf. I've done all these other sports at a high level, and I'm like, but golf has infuriated me more than any other sport in the world, you know? I mean, I've just had so many examples like everybody has, where you go out and you shoot a great front nine, a horrible back nine, or one good day in a tournament and then a terrible day the next day. And I'm like, man, I can't do this. Like,
yeah.
I don't want to play like this. So that was really, there's so many catalysts for developing RST, but just getting frustrated. I think so many people are so fed up with golf instruction with all these conflicting tips that are random and like, this guy says this and this guy says the opposite, and then you're just there to dig it out of the dirt, which I wish to God Hogan had never said that, because now everybody thinks, oh, that's how you find it. You just go and hit balls for 6 hours a day. Who has time for that? Not only that, but you can dig it out of the dirt like Hogan did and hit balls for 5 or 6 hours a day, or I can show you all you need to do in like 30 seconds,
right.
Yeah. Which would you rather do?
Yeah, and during those 6 hours, you could be doing it wrong. You could be ingraining the wrong thing for 6 hours.
Which is what 99.99% of people do, right?
Right.
I mean, there's a reason that every single golfer on the planet swings steep over the top and slices. And we can fix all that so fast. And so that's where I think people are really jazzed about what we do. It's like, look, this is so much faster. It's so much simpler. I don't have to think anymore. Like, look, he just says, do this. Oh, shoot. Every tour pro does do exactly that. It's not rocket science, you know? So I think that's why we've had such a good, reception of all these videos or the lessons, So hopefully this will be another good one for you as well.
Yep.
Come on over here. Let's get you loosened up first of all.
Yep.
And then while you're loosening up, tell me a little bit about your game and what you'd love to get out of here. So we know you've got a tournament coming up.
Yeah, and so I've been playing, 25 years or so, where I say that I'm a golfer and I'll, try and play, the once a week kind of thing.
Sure.
And, take sporadic lessons here or there. And, I was in the, probably like the mid-teens. And then I started taking it a little more seriously, and I ultimately got down to a 6 with kind of sporadic lessons.
Wow.
And I said, I'm at a 6 now, and I want to really get a proper swing. So I joined one of those, national things where, they have the technology lesson. They video you, and, you sign up for a package. And I spent 3 years on it.
Wow.
And a lot of money, and my handicap went from a 6 to a 9 to a 10, whatever. And so it just didn't work. It just didn't work.
Yeah.
A good buddy of mine has been an RST student for 5 years. He's been playing his whole life, and his ball striking is unreal right now. And when we were kind of comparing notes, he said that what I was doing was similar to what he was doing. And I think my problem with that other program was it didn't have a real philosophy, an actual prototype of a swing that they were trying to go after. It was just a whole bunch of good tips, and that wasn't, you needed a philosophy. And so right now, I've been watching the videos since I think December. I've been swinging inside in my bedroom. I put a net, and I'm in some instances, I'm hitting the ball better than I ever have in my life. I'm at a 7.3 right now, but I'm just struggling with consistency and finding the RST swing. So I'll get up to the range before my 6 a.m. tee time on Saturday, and it's 15 balls before I've hit one the way I want to hit one per what I've learned from you.
Sure.
And so what is it? Well, I just can't recreate it kind of at will. So it's not ingrained yet, you know, so I think I have, you know, a kind of a core understanding of each of the steps, you know, and I can at times stack them to produce the correct swing, but there are many times when I'll do part of the RST and then the remaining part of the swing is, you know, my bad amateur habits
Sure,
that have just been there. And so I don't have it where it's repeatable, where I'm just comfortable, okay, I've got the swing and I can be focusing more on, you know, the strategy of where to hit the ball. Instead, I'm thinking about, all right, you know, my grip, my posture. You know, I am at the point still where I have to kind of step by step it. And I realize that, you know, if I screw up one step, that swing is gone. You know, I kind of liken it to like when you're trying to enter a password. You know, you can get, you know, you've got 14 characters to hit. You get the last 13 characters, but you didn't capitalize the first one.
Yeah.
You know, you're not going to get into the application. So that's the way I feel that, you know, I do know each one of the characters in that password, but it's just not fluid. It's not all built up where I can do it at will. And then once I lose it, I'm struggling to get it back. And then, so on the 16th hole, it's like, oh yeah, that's right. You know, you really got to focus on that the weight shift going the other way. I'd spent 15 holes worried about the weight shift going that way.
Right.
You know, and it just doesn't do you any good. So, and I realize to me, it's a new swing and it's going to take time. But I am playing. You know, I am playing a good one time a week, and so, you know, I don't have the willpower to just shut it down and not go out onto the course until I've built it all up. You know,
Sure.
I want to keep playing.
Sure.
And so, you know, I am still trying to like kind of throw it all together. And I definitely, you know, I've been through, I think, all of the steps on the website, but I just don't have it all where it's just, you know, I get up and it all just kind of, it's all, you know, ingrained and I can feel it all.
Well, that's a great start, because I can tell you that there's many golfers who go through the same stuff, and there's two very basic and very simple reasons for the sporadicness that you're seeing right now. One, you've learned on the site now to ingrain any movement pattern. Learn how to drive a car, play a musical instrument, whatever. It's repetition. It's doing the same things over and over again. The problem is when we take too much and try to take the whole bottle of aspirin instead of taking one pill at a time, where none of us are patient enough to just be like, all right, I'm going to just work on my weight shift this way. And then as you notice, like, well, if my brain, this is the second issue, if my brain is so fixated on what's going on during the backswing, it doesn't have enough CPU power to worry about what's going on in the downswing,
That's
right?
exactly it.
So the issue is, first of all, if you're going to play while you're trying to make a big change in anything that you're doing in life, not just golf, but anything, you have to boil it down when you're in those performance modes, which I call a round of golf. That's a performance challenge, right?
Right.
You go to the range, we're practicing. You go on the course, we're in performance mode. So you have to dumb things down as much as humanly possible, and you have to have one or maybe two. I have some tour guys who think that they can think about two things at once, but it does slow you down. It's really not productive. In fact, it's not productive to think about anything. When you're on the course, all of that stuff has to go away. You have to kind of go with the girl that you brought to the dance kind of thing, because you've already made the decision to go and play.
Right.
And if you're thinking at a conscious level, our conscious brain can only process really like one thought that it can stay fixated on at a time. And if it's a movement, that's really tough. Like, I like to describe it this way. Here's the simplest way to think about how we screw up our golf swings when we go and play golf. If you took a fork right now and I told you to bite a steak and stick it in your mouth, without thinking about it, you'd never once miss your mouth, because you've done it millions of times, right? Now, if I told you to describe to me the mechanical procedure of how to get that fork to your mouth, how would it go?
Yeah.
You know, you'd think, okay, I've got to supinate this way and then deviate this wrist. And should my elbow be here or here? And then and as you're consciously thinking through this and having to describe it to yourself in order to get yourself to perform that move, it's going to be a mess. And you're probably going to miss your face if you're trying to give yourself that instruction. So when you're playing and you're going out to play a performance round, like there's different ways to play. Like you can go out and play, like you're going to go with your buddies and play, and play for some money or fun or whatever, but you're challenging each other. You got to turn all that stuff off. You cannot think and play like that. You can also go out and play where it's just you and it's late in the afternoon, you got a couple extra shag balls and you're just practicing just to get off the range or out of the mirror mode and all that stuff. That stuff is totally different. Then you can start thinking about things, and then you can see the results in real time on the course. Oh, I've never been over here before. It's, I hit this ball further, whatever. So finding understanding that you've got to have a cutoff switch here.
Right.
If you're going to play, like for instance, this week I know you got this tournament's coming up. I'm going to give you something today to say, like, this is all you can think about, and this is it. And it's not going to be a think. I'm going to make you think here today, to see it, to feel it, to understand it. And then when you go out to play, you're going to have a drill that you do that just before every shot, and maybe something simple, right? Like, okay, I'm just going to feel sitting into this. And that's it. And it's going to translate into something you can do in real time at the speed that you're making a golf swing. Swings happen super fast, right? So if we can boil it down to that kind of stuff, then your practice time is separated. You put your practice time over here in this little silo and say, okay, if I'm working on stuff, I'm working on stuff, and I'm thinking consciously, and I expect results to be sporadic and stuff like that. When I go to play, I'm in this silo, and I have this one feeling or this one drill or whatever. And so that we transfer that level of thinking from a conscious to more of a subconscious kinesthetic awareness. And then you can play golf. But it's impossible for anyone in the world to think about all the mechanics of the swing like you just described. Oh, shoot, is my setup right? Well, all right, okay, my setup's pretty good. Now I know on the backswing I got to shift my weight. But by the time that you've thought all this stuff out, the ball's already 100 yards down the fairway, Yeah. And so that's honestly the biggest challenge for anybody doing anything in life. And like I talk about driving cars and stuff like that. We can't take you from the parking lot after you just learned how to drive a manual transmission and put you on the racetrack and expect you not to crash at turn one. It's just too much stuff happening too quickly. So I'm glad that you told me that, because now I kind of can really focus in on how to get you into those two performance modes. One to practice and be really productive with your practice, and then the second one, like, how do I play while I'm trying to make changes that I know I need to make for the long term.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. But just when I go out and play in general, I consider it practice. I realize this is a work in progress. So one of the things that ends up hurting me is, well, I might start playing really, really well, and then I start thinking a little bit too much, and then, that's the end of that round. But I'm not afraid of just, I'm going to play 18 holes, and I'm going to treat it like practice. If I am, able to get something out of it relative to maturing the swing.
Sure, exactly. Cool. Well, let's get you to loosen up.
Yep.
Now I know what our goals are for today.
Distance 158 yards.
That was quick.
Yeah, not too bad of a start there.
Distance 144 yards.
Yeah, there you go.
Well,
They were two different swings,
Rest assured.
without question.
well, here's what's funny about it. The swings were identical. Absolutely exactly the same.
They felt dramatically different.
Exactly, right? So here's problem number one with golf. Feel and real are never the same. We've heard that adage forever, but there's a reason that sayings become sayings like that, right?
Right.
Colloquialisms are that way for a reason. Feel, when you are saying to me like, oh, these two shots were the results were completely different. The swings were exactly the same. I can show you on camera within tenths of a degree that the swing plane path, body movements, weight shift, all that stuff were virtually exactly the same. But this is the problem when we start associating feel and tying it to results. Your swing didn't change one iota from one to the next. It couldn't. I couldn't possibly imagine me telling you to write your signature really fast and then do it again, exactly the same speed, they're pretty much going to be the same because that's the movement pattern that you have.
Right.
The trick is, the reason they feel so different, one is because of the contact, right? The contact wasn't as good on the second one as it was on the first. But the big thing is, your movement patterns are, one, you're very rigid. So I can see the engineer analytical side of your brain.
Yeah, it's
From the
concrete.
moment you set up over the ball, I'm like, this guy is going through his pre-flight checklist. Right? Okay, flaps down, fuel on. Like, I can see it in
No
your head,
question.
right?
There's no question.
So that never works, okay? But at first, we have to do that.
Right.
We have to go through that process to make sure that we set up the same way every time. But we have to get out of that habit. When you're going to hit balls and you're looking at, you know, shots and whether or not the ball's doing the same thing, you cannot be going through 50,000 different things in your brain because you're already basically handcuffing yourself to an outcome that's going to be less than desirable because you've handicapped yourself from the moment you've set up over that golf ball. You've basically given yourself 1 out of a 10 chance of hitting a good shot and letting your subconscious guide the movements. And that's what we have to do in order to do it fast and do it the same way. But
Right.
you can override your movement patterns and say, oh, well, I want to feel this or whatever. And then all of a sudden, that's when, like, golf never feels the same.
Right.
So in I've seen you make 2 swings. Immediately, there's very obvious things going on. 1, the pre-flight checklist, that's a definite. Right? Number 2 is the plane of the club is way off. When the plane of the club is off, I'm sure you've seen my video that swing plane is not a fundamental of the swing, right? It's not a fundamental of the swing. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah, I have. I've been a little confused by that, but
Okay,
yeah.
good. Well, let me explain. So swing plane cannot, by its very definition, be a fundamental. To be a fundamental, according to Webster's definition, that word means it has to be primary, origin, central, and absolute. Now, the swing plane, the antonyms of that, periphery, all this stuff, the swing plane is happening in the periphery. It's a result of how you move your body, not the other way around, right? So all of the antonyms of what a fundamental is actually perfectly defines swing plane. But now swing plane in and of itself is incredibly important. But the trick is, how do you fix swing plane? That's what defines what a fundamental is. If I have a fundamental, then I should be able to directly impact that movement and get the result that I'm looking for. If it's not a fundamental, I have to change something else in order to get that to do what I want. So in order to fix your swing plane, I have to fix what's happening with your body and your arms and so on and so forth. That's why it's not a fundamental. But the long story short of this is, your swing plane gets very steep, your arms get very deep. These 2 moves together do not fly, because now the club, imagine you were chopping a piece of wood. Let me grab a club this. Let's just say that I'm going to come straight down like this, right? So the most efficient way to do that would be for this axe to travel in a perfectly vertical line directly above the center of the piece of wood, right? Now, what if, say, if I was going to chop that same piece of wood and I started from over here? Now what do you think is going to happen as I try to split this wood? I'm off plane, right? So I have to make a bunch of compensations in order to rotate my wrist, get the club back out here. It's all happening super fast. Will not fly, right? Because the plane is off. But in order to fix that plane of the shaft, the direction the shaft is traveling on, I need to change what I did with my arms, because I moved my arms over here and that threw off the swing plane. The same thing's happening in your golf swing. You're taking the club back straight like this, pushing across the body, that forces the right arm to bend early, club gets steep, and now you're chopping wood with the shaft being way out of position. So it's all just a matter of how well you put your compensations and your hand-eye coordination together in order to hit a good golf shot. And that's why you feel like sometimes you hit it great, and sometimes you don't know who that guy is.
Right. But I would say that I literally have different swings. And so, and as I was describing earlier, it could take me 15 balls before I feel like I've actually hit an RST swing.
Okay.
And so I can, and I have looked at myself and I'm like, all right, that really is steep. And that's not where Chuck wants us, right? It should be more like this. And I can get there.
Yeah.
But it, you know, this is part of the searching. You know, so I'm searching, trying to figure out, so what are the moves that got me to here? And, you know, it's associated with, you know, rotation, elevation, and flexion.
Yeah.
But, you know, when I'm getting up to hit, I'm reverting back to You know, this upright swing was, you know, one of the key symptoms of that bad, you know, classic amateur swing that I've had. That's what I'm trying to combat right now. So that's why I feel like I kind of need to go through this checklist so that I'll have a prayer of getting here.
Certainly when you practice, and this is obviously, this is our safe box, right? This is all about, we're going to make mistakes and hit bad shots, whatever, because we're trying to make changes. So I don't mind that, but this doesn't, when I see on your first swing of the day that you make, going through this big checklist, I know that that's pretty ingrained. And so I know when you're out on the golf course, you're probably doing the exact same thing.
No, there's no question about that.
So I expect it here, but I don't want it out there, right? So that's why I was making that point. But here's what I want to do. I want to first lay to rest what you're feeling.
Yep.
With shots being different, swings being different, right? So go ahead and hit a couple more balls. I'm just going to video them from down the line, and then we're going to take a quick look at them, and then we're going to keep walking through. Cool, perfect. Let's do one more. If I can move the launch monitor over a little bit. So how did those two swings feel in relationship to each other?
They felt pretty similar.
Pretty similar? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see, that should, let's try it out. One more.
Distance 162 yards.
How'd that one feel compared to the other two?
That one felt a little better. It felt like I was shifting my weight on the downswing.
Okay.
And so I would presume that I did something a little more correct on the backswing to enable that to occur.
Okay. Cool. Well, let's come over here for a sec. All right, so we're just going to walk through the swing really quickly. Setup stuff looks pretty good. There's one little tweak I would make here. We're going to come back to that in a minute. As we go back, takeaway is not too bad. So now the hands are extremely deep at this point. Right?
Yep.
The shaft is now no longer on any swing plane that we could use to hit that ball because it is being swung on a plane that you could hit yourself in the foot, but not that golf ball, right? So we know we have to do some sort of rerouting of that club to get it to hit the ball. Now, left arm super, super shallow, hands very deep, wrist starting to cup, club going across the plane, right elbow deep, right? Now, let me just walk through this one real quick. Sorry, I gotta flex like this. So now, those two positions are exactly the same, right?
Right.
Now, you said you felt like you shifted your weight a little bit better. So right there, I'd say halfway down, you're pretty much kind of 50-50-ish. I can see both thighs here just a little bit, but that's pretty normal. Swing plane, clubs going down right beneath the base of your shoulder. And then in this one, where you felt like you shifted your weight better, I can still see a little bit of your left thigh, weight's 50-50, club going right through your shoulder. Can you tell the difference between those two?
No.
There's zero. Literally zero difference. Now let's check at impact when it really matters, right?
Yeah. So I feel like the hips opened.
Okay. Well, your hips are pretty open here. This is
Yep,
the one on
yep,
the left.
Yep.
And now let's look at this one. Back of frame. Right there. Hips are really open. I can see the exact same amount of belt on past that left belt loop as I can on this one. I can see the exact same amount of your left thigh as I can on this one. I would say they're exactly the same. If I put those two up there and didn't tell you which one was which, you would have an impossible time differentiating between those two. There's zero difference. And I'll flip that one around later so I can make it make sense. there's no difference. Zero. Not even tenths of a degree difference. Contact was different. Maybe you hit a little bit different part of the face. Contact was different, right? So just by missing the center of the face by a quarter of an inch will feel and sound completely different. The last swing where you felt like you hit it pretty well, you had auditory and visual feedback. You didn't have that on the other one before because the launch monitor didn't pick it up.
Yeah.
You hear 162 yards. Oh, that's not a bad seminar. All of these things go into your brain and funnel out as, oh, that swing was absolutely different. But the camera never lies. And so when you're feeling that some things are different, I promise you, nobody can make changes that quickly. Not even I can. I know how to manipulate the brain to make a really fast change. And I can do it. I can consciously override things, but I can't do it fast or really proficiently, right? Nobody can, because we have to ingrain those movements, and it's only through the way that we go through it on the site. So the trick here is, long story short, we have to fix your swing plane. That club is here, halfway back, or even going across the line, and it has to get rerouted.
Yep.
So the number one thing we have to fix is swing plane. But as I told you, swing plane is not a fundamental. So
Right.
how do we jive these two things? That's exactly what I want to show you. So I don't need to see you hit any more balls, because I know what's going on there.
Excellent.
All right, so long story short, throw the club down for a second. All you need to do to fix your swing plane is understand basically how to get from point A to point B. Point B at the top of your swing is exactly what I covered in that 5 minutes of perfect backswing, right? So I'm sure you've probably done this video where you can do this drill. So
Yeah.
show me what you would do in this drill real quick to do that 5 minutes of perfect backswing. Okay, so now look in the mirror. Look at me. What do you see difference?
So I think your elbow is bent.
I'm sorry, just because I'm lazy.
Okay. I don't know.
Okay. So you notice how I'm looking at you between my forearms, and you can look at me like this.
Mm-hmm.
This is elevation. Your swing plane right now is very deep and very flat. Your arms are very deep and very, yeah,
I'm doing
exactly.
it.
So you don't have any elevation in your swing, hardly at all. You need way more elevation in order to get the club to work up. Because we know at some point we want the club up here, right? And right now you're down here. So if we can start here, we can start figuring out how to get our way back down and connect all the dots in between. When you do this drill and you're doing it like this, if I did that and did the drill, look where my hands would be. Exactly where you just are training them to be. You have to have this elbow up around the base of your pec in order to have enough elevation in the swing to keep the club on plane. So let's make that correction first. Let's do a face on first. 5 minutes, the perfect backswing drill here. All right, so now, you see how you can kind of see me through your forearms, or before you're like this. Make sense? Now, this is nice and flat, this is straight, rotated, everything here is perfect. Now, turn down the line so you can see yourself in the mirror. Actually, sorry, the other way. Yeah, perfect. So now that we know that we got this right, you have your checkpoints. You start to use your eyes and what you see through your forearm as a reference. I like to block my right eye when I'm doing this drill with this forearm. It's like if I had a watch on, I'd be like trying to look through it right through my right eye. If I close my left eye, I can't actually see you. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that way we know that the arms, I'm going to move your arms over here just a little bit. So now you see how your right eye is kind of blocked by your watch a little bit. We can lower the elevation down just a hair. So now you see how you can't really see my face with your right eye. Simple check, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, hinge forward. Don't lower your arms. Hinge forward. So just getting it all set up. And now just rotate to the top. Now look in the mirror. Look at where your hands are. Big difference, right?
Mm-hmm.
Versus you're normally, you feel the strain in your left shoulder, how much deeper your hands are. That's a flat, off-plane swing that has no chance of getting back to the ball consistently, because it requires you to do some sort of manipulation to get the club back on plane. I want the absolute fewest compensations humanly possible. Your swing's not going to be perfect right now, but we can still minimize compensations dramatically. And by getting the club on plane, that's the quickest fix.
Right.
All right. We're no longer trying to chop wood from way over here. This is the first thing you have to feel. And once you can do this consistently, you do it in the mirror so you can see yourself, get it perfect, block that right eye, hinge forward, get your axis tilt, rotate to the top. Okay, now look where your hands are. How low they are. And your hands are up here. Because
So
if
what
you
did
come
I,
out of your
how
posture.
did I do that then?
So you did the number one mistake that everybody makes when they go through the 5 minutes perfect backswing. They get it perfect like this. My right eye's blocked, my elbow's up, I've got elevation.
Yep.
And then as soon as they hinge forward, they let their arms start to drop down. There you go. Keep them up there where we put them. And now rotate to the top and leave them there. There you go. Keep turning. Now your hands are up where they're supposed to be. Versus, feel the difference. Your elbow's normally back over here. Does that make sense? So when you're getting into your golf posture, don't let that relationship of your right arm and the base of your torso drop. Don't let that relationship change. It's got to stay elevated. There you go. Good. Now, if we had a club in your hands, the club is actually on plane. Now, I didn't do jack crap to your swing plane.
Right.
I didn't even touch the club. You didn't even have a club.
Right.
And now it's magically on plane. I fixed it by fixing the thing that creates the swing plane. This is just a result of all this crap. Okay? That's why trying to fix your swing plane by worrying about this stupid thing is absolutely futile. Right? So, now we're on plane. And now to come down, if you shifted your weight, go ahead and shift your weight. Club's already on plane. Post up and release. We're already in a good impact position because the club had so much less compensation to do to get back on the way down. But if you're starting here at the top, you're never ever going to change anything. Right? So now let's do this with the club. So I want you to go through the 5 minutes of perfect backswing routine, the exact same thing but with the club in your hand. Okay, so that will be a very, very flat laid off position. So when you're doing this in front of the mirror, I want you to imagine that this club is about 45 degrees to the ground. This wrist is flat. There we go. So now you can see it's about 45 degrees, give or take a little bit.
Yep.
Okay, now keep that relationship exactly the same. Hinge forward, get your posture, rotate to the top. Okay, so you drop your arms here. Look how good. Yeah. Okay, so what you're doing is you're reverting back to your old movement patterns. This is what your brain wants to do. You did this perfect. And then you started to get in your posture, and then the arms just kept sagging and sagging and sagging and sagging. By the time you got to the top, they were deep. Flat with the clubs. Yeah. See a big difference? That club has to change 2 feet in the downswing. Yeah, there's no way we're going to get that back. Relax. There you go. There. So now we did a pretty good job of keeping everything about where it was. It's not perfect, but we're way closer. So now that club is on plane. Now I don't want you to think about a single thing. I want you just to go down to setup, relax, and go right back to that same position without thinking about it. You feel your hands are about the same spot?
Right now, yeah.
Okay, let's do that 3 more times. Rotate your body to move that club to the top. Relax your arms. One more. Okay, now reset. There's a reason I want you to do this in this sequence. When you're doing that 5 minutes perfect backswing drill, do it about 5 times. The pump drill that I just did with you. You always reset after 5. 5 reps and then start straight up. Vertical posture. Standing up. Reset to get everything perfect exactly the way it was because the quality of each rep will slowly start to degrade when you're trying to make a big change. You'll slowly start getting a little deeper, a little flatter, a little shot, all that stuff. So just stand up out of it 5 times or get back, reset, and then go to the top. Feel what that feels like. Look at it in the mirror. Okay, this is where it's supposed to be. Now, 1, 2. I'm not thinking about how to get there. I'm just replicating what I saw, what I felt, and what I knew that I did was perfectly correct doing that routine. So let's try to do that on your own. I want you first facing the mirror, preset it. Is that 45? Yeah, there you go. Good. So you make these little corrections. Now turn down the line. There you go. So now we're going to look at what it looks like at the top. go. All the way down to address. Okay, now you got deep and flat and laid off there. Good. So as you're doing this, don't be afraid, not even don't be afraid, I want you to actually stare at yourself in the mirror while you're doing this. So watch yourself the whole time. Go back to the top. There you go. So now you can watch whether or not this looks like the same movement that you did when you started, when you knew you had it perfect in the first place. There you go. There you go. Good. Perfect. Reset, face the mirror. That was 5 times, and let's do it again. Finish your turn. It's only half turn. Good. Getting better. Watch yourself in the mirror. There we go. Good. Turn down the line this way, yeah, just like that. And I want to video you, so now you don't get the aid of the mirror this time.
Yep.
And I want to see, you can use the mirror to set it.
Yep.
Now you're going to get to the top and you have to feel it. And let's see how much the movement degrades from when you can watch yourself. Make sure that, yeah, make sure the clip's not too, there you go, good. Good. Very deep. Okay. No, so we're gonna look at it because we're not gonna make any bad reps and waste time here.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so see how deep your hands are?
Mm-hmm.
Your hands are going to end up here. This is where your hands need to be. They can be a little bit behind your shoulder, but not this deep, and I shouldn't see your shoulder. That's where, if I draw a line here, look at the base of your elbow in relationship to your chest. Now when you do this drill, and you're looking at yourself in the mirror, where's the base of your pec, or even above, right? And now it's down here mid-body. So how did it get there? So as you start going back, you start moving your arms. Once you preset your arms, this is really important, they stay exactly where you set them, right? If you start moving them this way, they'll end up flat, because your arms aren't going to magically get longer. If you move them one way, they're going to lose the height that they had. If you bend forward and let your elbow start to drop, your hands change. So they cannot go across, and they cannot go down. They stay exactly where you set them.
Yep.
Good. Nope. You did great on phase 1, which was getting your posture. And then after that, you start swinging your arms around. So let me just show you real quick. You ended up, so I videoed the whole drill. Now you had a lot of elevation. This would be like too much.
Too much.
It's an exaggeration for right now, right?
Yep.
You can see they're well above the base of your pec. Your elbows. Stayed there. Looks great, right? So we still have like that 90-degree angle between your arms and your chest.
Mm-hmm.
And you set up, and then watch what happens. So your hands right here, you can start to see them start swinging across your body, right? That's all arm movement
Mm-hmm.
and no body turn. You can see your shoulders aren't really moving at all, but your hands are moving 8 inches. If your hands are moving 8 inches, they have to be moving across your body. So the trick is, I'm going to give you a simple feeling to fix this so that you can't get it wrong. So preset yourself this time again. Yeah. Let's get this elevation a little bit more where we want it, right there. Okay, good. Now hinge forward. Okay. Now rotate to the top. Keep turning. Feel how much higher your hands are here?
Mm-hmm.
So All I did is I kept your arm from being able to duct away from your body and kept it from dropping. So if I just basically force that elbow to stay exactly where it's supposed to, and you rotate to the top, your hands end up staying where they're supposed to be, which is up here by your head, right? This is not where you're doing that drill. Your hands aren't down here, they're up here by your, there you go, up here by your forehead, right? That's where they're supposed to be, and that's how they stay more in line with your shoulder. They'll be a little bit behind your shoulder, but more in line here versus this. So this is what I need you to feel, and this is what you're doing. Okay? Now see if you can make that correction. Good. In the mirror, and let's get it to the top in the right spot this time. A little bit less elevation. There you go. Perfect. Up with the hands. Up, 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 up. Now, does that feel like your hands are like
Yeah.
way crazy and over
Yep.
your head?
Yeah.
Let's take a look. Looks good there. See how they're below your shoulder again?
Mm-hmm.
And then I told you to go up, up, up. They just end up in a normal position. A little flat and laid off there, but the height of your hands is now closer to where they're supposed to be, which is where you had them when you did this drill. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So do you realize how you keep swinging your arms this way? You just don't feel it, but you can see it, right?
Oh yeah.
So, do the drill again, then I want you to turn down the line so you can see yourself in the mirror as you start moving your arms back to the top.
Yep.
So you're blocking the right eye. So if you close your left eye, there you go. That's how high. So now you're kind of looking through your watch with your right eye.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Good. Now turn down the line. Okay. So notice right now that your hands are about the height of your forehead.
Mm-hmm.
As we get to the top, they shouldn't be below your forehead. Right? They should just be there. So go in your posture. Good. Just rotate your body. Shift your leg over so you're a little more relaxed. Now you see how much higher your hands are here? This is just keeping them exactly where they started. So that's, when you can see that, that's how you're going to start correcting when your arms are dropping and going across your body. Just relax this wrist. There you're just kind of bowing it, keeping it a little tight. Good. That's your position at the top. Pump down to, yeah, that's where you normally go. There you go. Feel the difference in the elevation in your arms. A little laid off at the club. There you go. 45 degrees to the ground. There you go. Better. Up, up, up. Good. You went a little around and then you corrected it.
Yep.
So that means you need more elevation earlier in the swing, right? So you did good. You corrected it, but you kind of went inside, and then you're like, no, it doesn't feel right. And then you lifted your arms. Your arms ended up in the right spot, but at speed, we'd never get there, right? So the trick is we just have to start elevating immediately during the takeaway.
Right away, you stood out.
Absolutely. There's a little bit of elevation throughout the entire swing. The whole
Okay.
swing, simplest way, this is oversimplification, but think about it this way. When the swing is, backswing is 25% done, 25% of your wrist set is done, and 25% of your elevation is done. When it's halfway done, it's half and half. Just a simple way to break it down.
Yep.
You did 0 elevation and then 80% of your elevation, right? Just start elevating right away. Just like you were picking something up and putting it up on a shelf behind you. If the shelf's over here, you're not going to do this. Use the momentum that you're using by creating rotation. That creates momentum for your hands, right? They're swinging around out here in free space. Use that momentum of your body turn to help start swinging your arms up, to pick that thing up and put it on the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I want you to feel when you're doing that drill, the pump drill, to get your arms back to the top. Is I'm turning the hand, put something up over here. It means I need to be elevating immediately. feels like. Down to address. Immediately start elevating off the ball. There we go. Up. Good. Yeah. Do that one more time for me. Just a little bit too much wrist rotation. So when you do this with the wrist, this flattens the club, lays it off a little bit. So just want to keep a little more neutral here as you're going back. Good. Yep. Good. That, my friend, is progress. Keep going. All right. Now, take a quick gander. Almost perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I want the club over a little bit more. This is where you just keep getting a little tight, too much internal rotation with your wrist.
Yeah.
But from here, the club has a prayer.
Mm-hmm.
It's not perfectly on plane because it's a little bit laid off here, but a smidge. But your arms have elevated now. They're not buried. Remember before you could your arm was right here.
Yeah.
And you could see your right shoulder completely over the arm. Now the arms are swinging up. We have leverage, we have elevation, we have a club that's on plane. We now have a swing plane, and if you watch, as the club's going back, there's a little bit of rigidness with your wrists and some stuff going on here, but the right wrist is kind of hinging back, and that's causing the club to swing inside right here a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
That's an easy fix, but the big picture is halfway back, are we on a reasonable swing plane? Yep, we're pretty close. Now, instead of having to make all these big compensations where your club shaft was over here earlier and has to do some sort of magical loop to get back down to get the club to do the same thing, the club's going to just fall back on the plane when you shift your weight. So the whole trick is, this is one thing I wanted to mention in your password analogy, which I liked. The catch is with your password, there's no variable in it. There's no variation. It's either a capital A or a lowercase a, but it cannot be one or the other, right? So when you enter that password incorrectly, it's binary, right? The golf swing's not binary. The PGA Tour proves that, right?
Yeah, right.
Jim Furyk's got some crazy stuff going on. Ray Floyd's going this way. Jack Nicklaus went. Everybody in the backswing can be all over the place to some degree. And then obviously, the more variables you put in there, the harder it is. The more you got to dig it out of the dirt, right? So we're trying to make it just incredibly stupidly simple. That's just this whole 5 minutes of perfect backswing puts you in a perfect backswing. When you think about it, it's just stupidly simple. But if you're a little bit off plane, club's a little laid off, club's a little across the line, club goes a little inside, you can still hit the ball fantastic.
Right.
As long as we're in a reasonable enough spot and a reasonable enough plane that our weight shift can shallow out the swing plane for us and get a good impact position. So this doesn't have to be perfect. Over time, it's something that we want to work on because it just cuts down variability, right? But right now, we're in a reasonable enough position that while you wouldn't know how to come down from there yet, because it would feel like you're in a foreign land because your arms are so much higher than what you're used to, you would at least have a much better chance through repetition of getting the club to shallow out and do the things we want it to do. Because right now, you're working 10 times harder than you need to because the club's way off plane, right?
Right.
As you're getting this to be in a reasonable position, don't think that it has to be absolutely spot on perfect, right? It doesn't have to look exactly like me or Tiger or whoever. We just got to be in the ballpark. We're in the ballpark, you can play consistently great golf. So I want you to keep feeling this, getting your arms up there, and then I'm going to actually have you start to come down from this position without a ball. And I want you just to get used to the idea of like, holy crap, my arms are in no man's land compared to what I'm used to.
Yeah.
But you may find that like, oh, well heck, this is actually a lot easier to come down from.
Yeah.
And that's what I want you to start to discover is once you kind of get past your brain, get out of that thinking phase for a second, and accept the fact that your hands are in a new place, and then you just start coming down from there, you'll be surprised how the club starts balancing out, the plane and path and release and all that stuff starts happening naturally. And that's what we're trying to get to today. So 5 minutes perfect backswing, arms up. Get yourself to the top again. Laid off. sure that this is nice and neutral. Good. Yeah, good. Good. I'm going to start to make little tweaks to make it even better.
Yep.
Soften up your wrist a little bit, so I'll let the club set a little. There you go. You want to start to feel that weight of the club head there. If you're rigid and tight, it's not going to work. I'm just going to soften it up just a hair, just so you can feel the weight of the club. Feel the club being in balance. Because you, at the top, the club should feel pretty poised. It shouldn't feel like, oh, it wants to drop this way or I'm holding it somewhere. There you go.
Yeah.
So now it's kind of found its own balance, right?
I did. Yep.
Good. That's where you're going to feel at the top, and by keeping your wrist just a little bit more relaxed, it makes it easy to find
Allows
that.
it,
Yeah, exactly. Down to address, back up to the top. A little bit shallow with your arms, so go up a little bit more. There you go. Good. Find that balance point for the club. Each time, go to the top and just kind of twirl it around a little bit, just to find, oh, okay, it does have a natural set point. Okay, you went around and then up. So imagine that I'm sitting right here, and I'm begging you not to hit me. There we go. So your favorite pet is right here on the takeaway. You got to get the club to go up above him. Elevation immediately. There you go. Let's do one more time. Yeah, good. Finding the balance. Let's go back down to address. I'm going to show you what it feels like to add elevation immediately. So this is just your arms working this way, like we cover in the 5 minutes for backswing drill. And then as you keep doing that, as you're turning, you just keep adding that elevation as you go back. And find the balance point for the shaft. There you go. Good. 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 Now, do that one more time, and I want you to come down from there. I want you to go to the top and stop. Find the balance point, go through all the same checkpoints, and then make a downswing. Now, go to the top and stop again, so we can make corrections.
Yep.
Club's laid off. There you go. Find the balance point. Good. Now come down. Good. All right. Make sure that we're not missing anything here. So, this is the shaft plane at address. See how the club is now on a different plane? This is again just way too much rotation in your arms, forearms specifically, setting the club off plane during the backswing. You see how it's parallel to the plane line that I just drew, but not the shaft plane that we started with, right? So we're off plane. So now, when I tell you to go to the top and find balance, you realize that that doesn't feel right. Look at the difference. That's me not telling you where to put it.
Yep.
That's you saying, this feels balanced.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So simple little feedback mechanisms like that to find the natural balance of the club. And I'm going to show you in the takeaway too, while you're taking it inside, to find the natural balance point for the takeaway. But this is all of a sudden, you're just moving the club around. You're like, okay, where does the club naturally feel like it likes to move the camera around? Where does it feel like it naturally wants to be, right? Much steeper plane than where you were. So now let's see, just from this new position, how we come down. Club shallowed out perfectly, actually too far from the inside. Great release there. So without doing anything, the club, your hands are doing exactly what I talk about online all the time, whereas the hands look like they drop vertically, right?
Right.
I didn't tell you to do any of that.
Right. The weight shift goes on.
Yeah, I didn't tell you to try to shallow out the plane. I didn't try to get you to manipulate the club and swing out to first baseline or any of that stuff. It's literally, let me get you in the ballpark at the top, and then use the fundamentals, step one of weight shift, to create that secondary tilt, and the club takes care of everything. We just got to be in the zip code at the top.
Yep. Yep.
And where you were, we weren't in the same county, for sure. Now we're getting in that zip code to where the club just, shoot, it just did what it's supposed to. Now we just got to make that consistently repeatable, getting to that same spot at the top. And so you start refining it. Right now, we're kind of like in a space like this at the top. I want to get that space like this, to where it's really, really tight, but not worrying about all the perfectionistic little details, but let's get it really close. And then get you to where you can do that every single time without me having to correct you. And then the downswing stuff, the stuff that you've already learned about shifting your weight, axis tilt, setup, is all going to start paying off big dividends because we're in the zip code again. So I'm going to make some corrections here as we do that 5 minutes perfect backswing. We're going to get this into a much tighter circle, and then we're going to teach you how to do it consistently to the top every time.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, see how you get laid off there? So I want you to feel what the club feels. It should feel super heavy.
Yep.
Now it doesn't feel so heavy, right? Balanced. And your wrist feels natural. It feels more relaxed. Everything right here is perfect. You know, feel the difference? The club will speak to you if you listen, but
No,
it cannot communicate with tight wrists. Right? This is the #1 contact point you've got with the club are your phalanges. You get all our sensory feedback from our hands, our fingertips, just incredible sensory feedback here, right?
Right.
You're holding on to that thing tight. It's like a race car driving on blocks of wood for tires. It doesn't work. You've got to have soft Pirellis. There we go. Now, hinge forward. Good. And just rotate to the top. Where that club is, nice and balanced. Hands are in front of your body, there's no strain here. Now go down to address. Now relax that wrist. There you go. I mean, one little correction here, and that is that there's a video on the site where I'm talking about how the club goes inside and I push against this wrist joint and I hold the shaft like this. Now your takeaway is normally in here. Now look what the difference is. There's 2 foot of difference, and the only difference is what I did with your left wrist. All I did was push my thumb against that joint, like I talk about in the video, and that forces the club to stay perfectly in line with your hands, perfectly on plane during the entire takeaway. Without you just did less, honestly. Right? So you do that, relax. Now the club naturally went here instead of here, right? It's just less movement. It's doing less and less. My whole goal with the swing is to get you to do basically nothing. Feel that? You do it on your own. Nope. So let's turn down the line. Fastest way to correct this is to see it. So I want you to watch the club the entire time during the takeaway. Look where it ended up. Right over your toe line, right? Normally you're in here. Do you see how it's just your wrist deviating, bowing, and rotating that's causing that? All I'm doing by pressing on that joint is forcing it to stay where you started. And then we take a little bit out to get it into position here. So the whole trick is it's just less movement. I hold the club there, club goes there, yep. Boom, on point, relax the wrist. You're not letting the club swing, you're trying to make it go somewhere that it doesn't want to go. Feel the weight of the club head. There you go. Feel it. That's where it wants to go. Look where it goes. You softened up and look where the club went. Look at the difference. It's not this. It's pointing straight down at the ball. It's on plane now. Just like chopping that piece of wood, that shaft needs to be pointing pretty close to the ball. Relax the wrist. Turn your body. Perfect. Good. Good. Now you try it. I'm not going to help you, but I want you to stop during the takeaway. At the end of the takeaway. There you go. Awesome. What did you have to feel that time to get the club to go perfectly?
Well, I really had to focus on, that being maintained.
That video is really important. If you have the takeaway that goes inside, if you can just feel that left wrist more or less stays in neutral. If you make a mistake and the club stays, by doing exactly what you're doing now, the club's a little bit too far outside your hands, That's a way better mistake to make than this one. This is one you don't recover from. Most tour pros, you watch them, they kind of get in the habit. They know the club head can't go inside, and so somebody gives them some drill to keep it way outside, and so they'll make a mistake of keeping it way out here. It's too far out this way too, but this is way easier to recover from because the club can then just easily go back on plane. Here, going this way,
Yeah, right.
all bets are off, right?
Right.
We're no longer lumberjacks.
I'm definitely having a tough time with the relaxing of the wrist.
That's why I grabbed your hands, because I can feel the tension right away. A little flat and deep. So stop for the takeaway. Check it first. Okay. Right there would be perfect. So that's a little bit of wrist deviation. You've got to let some come out. Like I said, if you make a mistake here, I'm perfectly okay, just not here. Now from there, up. Almost. Almost. Go back to the takeaway. Clip in line. Finish your turn. Elevate. There you go. So the whole trick is, and this is a video on the site about the 4-square drill. Do you remember that? Perfect for you.
Right. Stay out of those squares.
100%. No matter what, exaggerate the hell out of it. You just swear to me that everything is happening in box 2, and this is over. We're done.
Yeah.
Right? If you can imagine that, let me set a couple of clubs up just as a good visual reminder of what that drill is all about. So go ahead and set up. All right. So all of your swing has to happen in that box. Yeah. Yeah. So you'll notice you have to add more elevation
Big time.
in order to get the club to stay in box, what feels like in box 2, right?
Yeah.
There you go. There you go. Now look at the club. I'm playing, huh? Fix your swing plane without touching your swing plane. Good. Feel what that feels like. Now as you're going back, start to feel what that club, as your wrists stay relaxed and your arms start elevating to keep the club in box 2. Feel what that feels like. There you go. Nice. Really good during the takeaway. You see a huge difference now. The club's not.
Yeah.
Before you're letting momentum just kind of swinging around with those. Yeah, exactly. That's your old movement, right? We don't want to practice that one anymore, but it's good that you know what it is. There you go. Yep. Yep. Beautiful. Ten of those. I want you to do 10 perfect ones, and then I'm going to take the mirror away for a second. Good. So you're going to have to really pay attention to what you're doing. Don't just do reps for no point.
Yep.
Watch yourself in the mirror. Get a feel for what it's doing. Excellent. Good. Whenever you're ready to test yourself, you let me know. You're going to turn the other way and you can't see the mirror, and I'm going to see how much this stuff you really feel. All right, I like it. I like the confidence. All right, show it to me. Let's see it. Not bad. If I said not bad, where do you think you probably could have made an improvement on?
I'm going to presume it was in the takeaway because I felt like the second half was just elevation. So
Okay.
I probably had a little of the wrist coming back out.
Let's take a look. So when you're doing your takeaway earlier, box 2 is kind of formed by more or less like the balls of your feet. So now you see how your hands and the club have gone a little bit inside of box 2.
They're already in box 3.
So not enough elevation during the take. You see this by how angled in your left arm is there, right? Left arm should more or less be straight down the line at this point. The only way it's going to get there, elevation. So from there, the club's already a little inside, and then you rolled it with your wrist right there instead of going more or less straight up. Now the club's flat. it's better, and that's way better.
Mhm.
It's still a little flat,
Right.
right?
It's,
So
it's in the county, but right.
exactly. So now let's turn down the line, use the mirror again. And now so you know, yep, so that this is the ball of your foot, right? That club at the end of the takeaway cannot be inside this, and your arm should not be pointing inside of that. Alright, watch the club go back. Now look at your left arm and club. You see how they're almost in like a perfect straight line?
Mhm.
And they're right more or less over your toes? Where did I show you where your arm was earlier? Yeah, exactly. Just a little bit of elevation is all it is. And that puts everything in alignment. So now instead of trying to recover from here and not get flat, from there it's pretty easy. Right? You just continue, yeah, and it's done. See how much simpler that is? Versus you wanting to go this way, and then try to get the club on plane from there. No chance. Yep, more elevation. There you go. Close there. Show me a little bit too much elevation during the takeaway. What do you think would be too much elevation? Right. Now look at the mirror. What does it look like?
Well, the arm's not parallel, and the club's out a little bit.
Yeah. So remember if I said if you make a mistake,
That's where to make it.
this is where it goes. And this is you feel like, oh, this is way too much elevation. Right.
Right.
The mirror doesn't lie. That's why if you're going to do this and you are relying a little bit on feel as you're practicing, you're going to have to feel too much elevation.
Feel too much.
Yeah, exactly. Good. Good. Throw a little handshake. It's kind of a weird handshake for our right hand, right? Now you and I can shake hands. And, right? So that's that other, the takeaway video, the shaking hands stuff. So now you can start to feel that little amount of rotation that needs to happen. How much it should be is right there, where you and I can shake hands normally. Perfect. There you go. So you're moving this much with your wrists, your arms, all that stuff compared to what you're used to. It's got to feel minuscule by comparison, right?
Yeah.
So, but these little tiny movements are where you start dialing in to get the club to consistently do the same stuff. But at first, right now, everything's a box two, big picture stuff. Let's just elevate like crazy because we were just going around before. As we add elevation, the club stops going inside, and then it has a chance to be on plane. You're still rolling that wrist, that left wrist though, when you're doing that. So when I say you're rolling the wrist, you flatten it, what that does to the shaft. You flatten it and internally rotate these two bones, and that's what gets you in trouble, right? So when you're doing this correctly, you're going to feel that this doesn't flatten. It is, but you're going to feel like it doesn't. That's how we fix the takeaway, right? We had a little bit of flattening, and then it's going to be a little bit more to the top. Not this. This is your normal move. And this is just basically doing less. You're taking where it was at address, and you're letting it flatten a little bit, all the way to the top, and that's what keeps the club on plane. You can see just by changing this alone, the club's now 2 feet in la la land, right? So less movement, more consistency. See how you wanted to do that? Did you feel it?
Absolutely.
So what you're going to start feeling, be careful with feeling, right? Because you can check it in the mirror. You're going to feel that this wrist stays cupped the whole
It's
time.
going to feel cupped.
Exactly.
And I've been doing this to be less cupped.
So when you do that, you tighten up your wrist, you change the angle of the club face, you change the position of the shaft, all of that stuff, right? So the whole takeaway, at address, my wrist is like this, right? For the whole swing. Halfway back, I've lost that much deviation. It's still cupped. As I go to the top, it gets anatomically flat, which is neutral. Neutral is me just standing here. What angle do you see in my wrist is me just standing here? Very little bit of cupping, right? That's anatomically neutral. This is just me hanging down, chilling out. That's where I want you at the top, not like this. That's why, as I told you to soften up your wrist and find the balance of the club, guess where your wrist went? Totally by default, it finds that comfort spot.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So again, all this is showing is just too much tension, too much you trying to make the club do something. Listen to the club. It's talking to you, but if your wrists are tight, you can't hear it. So all you gotta do, soft all the way to the top, find that balance point, keep the wrist relatively relaxed, not sloppy loose, gotta have control still. But you'll find that this feels completely at home, completely relaxed, completely neutral, clubs on plane, so on. So just gradually let it flatten, but again, if you make a mistake, feel like it's cupped all the way to the top. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
All right, keep going. Pretty good. Good. Feeling different?
I feel cupped.
Yeah.
Big time cupped. I don't know if I am or not, but
So if you finish, you turn with your hands swing back a little bit. If you look at your left wrist, it looks anatomically flat, right?
Mhm.
You see a little bit of, like your knuckles are a little bit higher than your wrist bone. But there's a slight amount of cupping here, but that's where balance is, right? And this also is critical for lag in the downswing. Because as soon as you do this, how much can you cock your wrist?
Mhm.
Versus having a foot more leverage in your swing, right? Exactly. So your wrist being in anatomically neutral position gives it a tremendous amount of mobility in terms of cocking the wrist, right? We have to have wrist cock in the swing. That's where it's 2/3 of our speed comes from.
Yeah.
By you doing this, that's all the mobility I have in my wrist. So you're throwing away all this club head speed. The whole reason, like, your 7-iron being 40 yards shorter than mine is primarily due to this. This is where all the speed comes from. So as soon as I get in the ballpark at the top, where this wrist is no longer doing all this crazy stuff, and I'm trying to control it, trying to make it go on plane, and trying to make it be in a certain spot, instead of just letting it swing to the top, adding elevation and keeping the wrist soft, all of a sudden all that stuff is taking care of itself for you. That's why I don't fix swing plane by ever touching the golf club. I'm going to touch your body, and then the club is going to tell you where it's supposed to be. So show me all the way to the top, soft wrist, elevation. Yeah, you keep using the mirror. I'm going to video it just a second. Okay, wrist is looking better. Man, starting to look like a golf pro there. I like it. Club went a little bit inside, the wrist is flat. Elevate during the takeaway. Really good during the takeaway. Club went right through your hand, but at the top, you got tight with your wrist and dumped the club a little bit. There you go. Good. Nice and relaxed. Good. Good. Again. Turn down so I can, as if you're gonna hit a ball into the screen, I'm gonna video one. Exact same movement. Really close. Way better. Not perfect yet, really close. We're definitely in the same zip code. So the club's going a little bit inside there. Not horrible, but that's your wrist. Watch your left wrist in these few frames. Do the logo on your glove, the black part of your glove. See how it's doing. Right? That's all that's causing the club to go inside. So now you got to recover from this. The club head should be going right through here right now. And it's a little bit off, and it's all caused by the takeaway. So let's see how you recovered from it. This is way freaking better. A little bit deep because the club pulled you in deep. And then you made a little bit of a correction right here to make your hands go straight up. Right there we can play
golf from there, man.
great freaking golf, right? If we soften up the wrist, the club would set a little bit so it wouldn't look like it's so pointed off over here. But because of this little mistake right here,
Mm-hmm.
the club's now off, and you couldn't get into that.
Super overcorrect.
But that's phenomenally better, and for certain, we're in a position here where the golf club is on point, right? So we've been an hour in doing these drills, but in that time, we've fixed your swing plane, we've got the takeaway going on the right part, and I haven't done anything in your downswing, but the downswing is really all about getting the club to do the right thing with speed, right? If the club's in the right spot at the top, like we're getting close to it, say we're 85% of where I want it to be,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to fix it in a minute with the takeaway fix. From there, a lot of the downswing stuff is automatic,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because all you're doing in the downswing is what?
Shift your weight.
Shift your weight, rotate, post. Nothing with the arm. Just like I'm not going to fix your swing plane in the backswing by testing the club in the backswing. Same thing is true in the downswing. If I get your body to move correct, club has no choice but to go where we want. And right now, the club's 85% of perfect. But that little bit of dump where you do this
Mm-hmm.
during that takeaway is what's making you have to recover to get to the top. So let's fix that dump. How do you think we can fix it? How would you fix this when you're on your own? Let's turn down the line so you can see the plane.
Yeah, so
You're on the course this week. You're playing a tournament and you're like, your buddy videoed your swing just out of curiosity.
Yep.
And you see it deep and flat. How
Yep.
would you fix this?
So with caution, I would overdo it the other way.
Yeah.
Right. So I would be, so what happens when I overdo it? But to start, I would overdo it.
All right, so I want to caution you with that. When you're practicing, I say overdo it.
Okay.
If we're playing, we can't be thinking, I'm just going to add a crap ton of elevation. Just
Right,
like
right.
really, our brain will not work like that.
Yeah.
Because now we didn't give it anything specific. It's like telling your subconscious, don't do that. Don't hit it into the water. What's the first thing you do? You blast it into the water. Your subconscious does not understand the concept of not, right? So you have to be very specific. So what I want you to feel to correct this mid-round is imagine that I'm pushing on that joint in your wrist.
Mm-hmm.
Or you actually grab it. Sit up here, take your other hand, push against that joint. Yeah, exactly. Now the club cannot go inside, right? So now we can give you something very specific, not something vague like, I'm going to add a lot of elevation. Well, what's a lot?
Yeah,
To
right.
you, it might be something different. Instead, you're going to correct it specifically. Yeah, exactly. And now, do that, hold that all the way to the top. Club can no longer go inside here. That simple little trick, that's one of my favorite videos on the site. It's such a simple fix for 90% of the takeaway and backswing problems. So we've now got you to the point where as you're playing, you can make a correction mid-round.
Mm-hmm.
Because I guarantee the fault that you're going to fall back into is the club going inside, deep, and flat. I guarantee it. This is going to be what you're going to struggle with for any time that you're playing for the next couple of weeks. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have one simple correction, because just doing 5 minutes of the perfect backswing reminds you what it's supposed to feel like at the top, and that's how you can check that. And maybe you get this takeaway thing down where you're like, I don't need to even worry about this anymore.
Yep.
Then that would be kind of your recheck every time. I just want to get this down. All right, mid-round, just making a couple practice swings, waiting on these guys up here looking for the ball in the woods and dropping 6 balls out of the pocket. I'm just going to do this a couple times, right? Once you know that that club's not going around. But if it keeps swinging around, you'll never get to that position at the top without having to do some sort of big correction. So this would be the first thing that you fix. If this is in the ballpark and you know, like, dude, my takeaway is for sure not going inside, then we go to this. So it's 2 simple things that you can play and practice with. Obviously, practicing, we'd be way more in depth with it, right? But if you're out on the course, you're like, I got to make a mid-round correction.
Yep.
I don't know what the hell is happening with my swing. This is what you do first. Takeaway, backswing. Then the rest of the downswing stuff is more than good enough to we're going to be in the ballpark. But we have to get this stuff in the zip code first. So show me the correction with the wrist for the takeaway, and then take that off. Once you feel like you've got it, you can do it with both hands on the club. Perfect. See? Takeaway will not ever go inside again. Good. Bingo. Now we got that weird handshake going. And see how the club fit? Yeah, there you go. There's a little bit of rotation that has to happen.
But that's not undoing this. It's a separate motion. Is
You're
that
going to
fair
lose
say?
a little bit of coupling.
Okay.
A little bit of coupling, but it's rotation, a little bit of rotation.
Mhm.
Right here's perfect. This is all you got to do. It's such little movement. So that's how much, I'm going to show you again to get you perfect, right? Now, don't change your wrists at all or your form, then just rotate your body back to address. Here's what we did during the takeaway. We added that much elevation, this much rotation. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Because the club's over here, it's set up. You did this, and then you elevated it that much, and you added that much wrist set. So if you take all your elevation out, and then you take your wrist set out, that's how much you moved in a takeaway. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
That's all we're doing. That's the whole freaking takeaway combined with rotation. Look where the club goes. Absolutely perfect. So you take all those things out, that's where the club moved during the takeaway with your arms, wrists, and hands. Weird handshake? Yep. Good. Just got one to go. Yeah. Good. Perfect. Get moving. Give you one more little tweak. Do you see what I did there?
I feel like I went out a little bit with the club head.
That's elevation, right?
Earlier elevation.
Yep. Bingo. Done. So here's a simple little cheat for you, okay? I don't give many cheat sheet ideas here because I like to focus on the fundamentals, but here's a simple cheat that you can use for your visualization of where that club should go during the takeaway. In your eyes, your mind, that club head always working over that shaft. Do you see that?
Mhm.
Now obviously as you keep turning, it's going to end up in here. But the first few feet of the takeaway, the club head should look like it's traveling almost in a straight line. Now it's not, because you would have to manipulate it, right? It's
Yeah.
traveling on an arc. But from your visualization, it can look like that to you. And then the club head, yep. Perfect. So by imagining that that club's going down the line, it forces you to add takeaway immediately off the ball.
Mhm. Right. Like
Exactly. See how it goes inside. Now your eye,
my eyes saw a line going that way.
bingo. Trace that line straight down the target line. Yep. There you go. Good. Now turn so you can't see the mirror. So you're going to turn this way. And I'm going to reset this up because I want you to be able to do this when you're out on the course this week. So go ahead and set up. So you can practice just like this, right? So we're just going to put a club here. You're going to use the same visualization, but now you don't have the aid of a mirror because you're out of the course. Weird handshake. There you go. So you made the perfect correction. You added a little bit of elevation and a little bit of wrist rotation to get that club toed up, and you're in an Adam Scott takeaway position. This is all you had to do to get there. Bingo. Yep. You wanted to
Yeah.
relax the
Because
wrists.
I'm
Feel
going
the-
too fast and overshooting.
Yep. Wait. Feel the weight of the club head. A little bit inside. See how it's not parallel with the shaft?
Mhm.
There you go. Right there. So you're just adding a little bit of wrist flick in there instead of wrist rotation. So this is when you just kind of flick your right wrist like this.
Mhm.
Yeah. This little movement, if you move the club a foot,
Yeah.
you can move this wrist like 6 degrees.
Okay. So then show me rotation.
Okay. Just this way. So as you're doing this, you're just rotating these two wrist bones. Yeah. That's how we get to the handshake, right? So if you're standing here and I said, hey man, shake my hand, right? You're not going to do it like this. And you're not going to do it like this. You're just going to turn, shake my hand. And as you do that, it's a little bit of rotation to make a handshake.
Excellent. Excellent.
There you go. Good. So you lost a little bit more wrist cupping than I would want. You see how that keeps the club outside your hand? The whole difference between a club head going inside your hands and outside your hands is that left wrist cupping.
Yeah. So I forgot about that during that swing.
That's why we gotta have practice time, right? We gotta be able to focus and think about just being really focused on what we're doing. So all I'm doing here is just changing your left wrist.
Do I have the funky handshake?
Nope, we're good there. Club's traveling down that club. Perfect. There you go. Let's make a mistake on this side, right? If we're going to make a mistake, let's have a little bit too much cupping still.
Okay.
There you go. See how the club didn't want to go over here anymore?
Oh, I overdid.
Well, you think you overdid it. You actually did it right. Yeah. All right, one more. Good. So, now, how we did this earlier. See how the club is traveling on the same shaft plane? I didn't tell you to do that. I didn't tell you to do anything, right? But before, your club head was like, wee, right? Now, without me telling you a single thing about shaft planes, swing planes, elbow planes, ZD planes, any of that BS, the club is literally, the sweet spot of the club is traveling at the dead center of that swing plane and staying perfectly outside your hands, right? And you're just doing less. Swing plane. Now, the goal from here is just to keep traveling up that. It's got to start to move up above it, right? So you got to start getting the club to go up. But the club is now on plane. You can just keep traveling up like this. So once the takeaway is in that ballpark like that, that's spot on, right? Traveling straight up the shaft plane. We just continue the same movements: rotation, elevation, flexion. Done. That's the whole kit and caboodle. So once that takeaway is tamed by not doing all this extra stuff that you were doing to make golf really hard for yourself because you really like a challenge, I don't like a challenge. I want it to be really easy. So I want to do it stupidly simple. And if that club's always traveling on plane, then 90% of the swing is fixed, right? Because if it's on plane, then all we have to worry about is club face angle. Right? Club face angle is easy to fix. That's grip related, release related, whatever. Getting the swing plane fixed is huge. It's the first thing that we're doing, obviously, even though it's not a fundamental of the swing. You fix it by fixing the things that create the swing plane. So now that you're getting the takeaway down, I want you to try and go to the top. But I want you to use the mirror again. So I want you to keep reinforcing, seeing what you're doing. You can flip the clubs back around. But I want you to try it without being able to see it for a minute.
Okay.
So that you can make that correction on the course. I can move this a little bit. There's ChuckKevin. Weird handshake. Yeah, see how it wants to feel more up here. The more that you're holding with the last three fingers of the left hand, the more it's going to want to feel up here. When you do this, these fingers have to really bite on hard to try and hold it, and you got to use more right hand. When you're using the last three fingers of the left hand, you're going to want the club to feel more upright, so these aren't working so hard just to hold on to the club. There you go. Good. Go back to the takeaway. Weird handshake, right? So your right hand's like this. There you go. So that club face, that would be a shut face. You want it to be in this ballpark. Right there.
Not exactly vertical, a little bit shut, right?
there's about, it's not a big deal either way.
Mm-hmm.
I like to be kind of like at 11 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
If we're anywhere in this ballpark, we're going to be fine. Okay? This is really more about ball flight, shape preferences and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But during the swing, during this part of the swing, we just want to make sure that our right hand isn't ending up on top like this. It's going to be more to the side so we can shake hands. Because when it's on top, the right wrist wants to hinge this way.
Mhm.
And look where the club goes, right? When it's to the side, that wrist can focus more on cocking the club straight up and down, which is what you're going to feel versus any deviation this way. So that's why it's important as we go back, that right wrist feels like it could just do this. You get the club to go up because you want to go that way. Does that make sense? So that's why that right wrist is really important. Good there.
So during the takeaway to the top, I should be feeling this with my wrist.
You don't necessarily need to set your wrist, right? But it needs to be at the angle that it can cock instead of being at the angle where it can only hinge, right? So
Okay.
it's like right now, your right wrist, when you make a mistake, gets on what we call on top of the club.
Yeah.
Right? Well, how can your wrist cock from here? You hit yourself in the face with the club head. You're not going to do that, right?
Right.
So instead, you're just going to hinge, and that dumps the club inside. I want to feel that my wrist hasn't hinged at this point, per se, and it's just working straight up and down. Just like in this with your arms, right? Your arms can swing around this way. You're already really good at that, right? But that just creates a flat, deep swing. I want to feel that my arms only work vertically in the swing, while my body turns and creates the depth in the swing. Same thing with your wrist. Your wrist can hinge this way. You're already really good at that. I want you to feel that they can only cock during the backswing. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yep.
Almost. Hold on to the last 3 fingers, and you're going to feel the club wants to be here, a little more balance, less tension. Good. Good. There you go. There's a golfer in there.
That doesn't bother you?
First of all, you're not going to do that in your real swing because the momentum of the club and the weight and on inertia is going to want to make you flatten out your wrist.
Mm-hmm.
You're already very skilled at flattening out your wrist on your own. We don't want to practice that. So, if you're to make a mistake while you're drilling, a little bit of extra cupping is the place to go. At the as we get everything dialed in, right now we're still trying to get in the county, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right about there would be perfect. That's a square club face. And the simplest way to check this, so you don't have to like, oh, well, how much deviations, whatever. Stand straight up. Let your arms flatten out to where your arms are parallel with your shoulders. The club shaft is parallel to the ground, and that club face should be parallel to the ground or slightly closed. We never want it open, and we don't want it really shut. And you can see I'm doing all this by just changing your wrist angle, right? That changes the leading edge, the face angle of the club. So that right there is barely closed. We have less work to square the face on the way down.
Mm-hmm.
Now just get back into your posture. Keep that same thing there. And that's where you're going to be. So if you're not sure if this is good or not, stand straight up, check the face angle. Should be parallel to the ground or slightly closed.
Okay.
Much better. Getting there. Much better. A little bit this way.
Really?
Well, that's going to travel up. Yep. Try to keep it over this shaft, the second shaft, as long as you can. And then the takeaway is done when your hands are about pocket height.
Mm-hmm.
That's when the club shaft should be parallel to the ground. Where when you're looking in the mirror, the club face should be covering up your hands. You shouldn't be able to really see your hands very easily in the mirror. If it's in here, you can see them.
Mm-hmm.
balance. There you go. Good. Good. Very good. One of the best ones yet. Getting there. Keep going. Nice. Great job during the takeaway there. Good. Yeah.
No, I still feel this.
Yeah. And that's just a little bit too much. So there's a little bit too much right hand going on in your swing. You're trying to use the right hand to set the club, move the club, etc. When you're doing this drill, it should feel like body and left hand only. Any right hand involvement is going to go back to hinging this wrist. And when you hinge this wrist, guess what it does to your left wrist? Flattens it, right? So this is going to be death for you. If you feel just left arm, actually try a whole swing with just your left. And you'll see that you won't make a lot of this. You see how the club's staying perfectly. And look at the balance point for it now.
Yeah.
You would never, ever put it here where you do with your right hand on there, right? So this just lets you know, like every other golfer on the planet, you're a little right side dominant, right? That's why your right hand keeps getting on the club. Now the club swings up into what is a natural and balanced swing playing position, and we didn't do anything with it. It's just getting your body, getting your brain to realize that the right hand causes 90% of the swing problems that you've got. There you go. Good. There you go. Feel a little different?
Big time.
Yeah. So the right hand's there as a support. The left hand's job is really the star of the show. This is a backup singer, right?
Yep.
His job is to transfer power, but that's going to happen in the downswing. And that's going to happen automatically by the sheer fact that your arm's attached to your torso, which is moving aggressively and all that stuff, right? So the right hand, just think of it as a backup singer. You don't even want to notice that it's there. The left hand this is Celine Dion here, right? She's the star. She's going to do everything along working with the body, and then the right hand's just there to back her up, give it support, but it cannot take over the left hand. When you start the takeaway and you start doing this, and this, the right hand's instantly taking over, and then it's all just a big bucket of compensations from there. That's why you have a hard time getting the club to balance out at the top when you're doing these drills.
Yep.
Because you don't realize how much the right hand's kind of taken over, and you're like, oh, well, I can hold it here just fine. It's not the right spot, but the right hand, again, it screws up freaking everything. Just about everything. So with the more that you practice, again, we started with the left wrist staying cupped, and then it's just going to lose a little bit of that as you go to the top. There you go. And just feel nice and balanced with that left hand.
Yeah.
Good, man.
Yeah, that was a real nice key right there. Yeah.
Good. Let's see if I can get one just like that. Way better with the elevation. Way better. Ah. A little bit inside, but not nearly as bad. I think you'd be pretty happy there at the top.
Yep.
Compared to. That's where you started. And the club, right arm folded, club instantly picked up. Which golfer do you rather be? This one, it's amazing that you're a single digit handicap for here, right? It is. You have to be super talented, way more talented than I am. I couldn't possibly even make contact from there. Here, a caveman can make contact from there.
Right.
The swing is so much simpler. The plane, the position, everything is just there. Here, you've done 500 extra things.
Mm-hmm.
And here we've only done like 3 things, period, right? We've turned, we've elevated, we've just kept everything the way it was, it's set up, and just taken things out and made your swing simpler. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
This is why, when I saw with the 500 point item pre-flight checklist that's set
Yeah.
up, and then I saw where the club was going. You know, there's no way you can play golf like that consistent. That's why like, I hit one great shot, but it's just not all clicking consistently. It's amazing that you hit one great shot the way that you wanted to, because you're having to work so hard to get that club to do what you need it to do. Now, like, dude, I'm just too lazy for that. I just want the club, like, I just want it as simple as I possibly can make it, and I want to learn it as fast as I freaking can, right? Just like everybody else.
Right.
I don't want to sit out there and pound millions of balls. I don't mind spending a little bit of time in front of the mirror as long as it's really productive. If I can see what I'm doing, then I can like, oh, that I know how to correct it. That's the whole point of all of this stuff, is that RST is all about self-diagnosis. If your swing is really simple, this stuff is so freaking simple. Like, oh, I'm just cupping my wrist too much. That's why the club's going way over. Oh, I'm just not having enough elevation. Yeah, it's super, super easy to self-diagnose. But when you're doing what you're doing and ending up at the position that you were at the top, all bets are off.
Right.
There's no way that you're going to consistently get that bat back on the ball doing it the same way, with any power, with any authority, without any consistency, without having a great day. You just got to have great hands and hand-eye coordination that day, right? I don't know about you, but mine changes every day. You know?
Yeah, throughout the round. Oh yeah, all the time.
Every single hole, every shot, right? Because we're dealing with so many distractions out there. Don't want to hit the bunker. There's an alligator over there. There's OB. I'm 3 shots down. Whatever, you know? Nothing about, oh, well, I just need to add elevation, right? Like, that's what you have to think about when you're playing. If you have to work on something, if you have to make a change while you're playing, you have to think. It's got to be something really simple, right?
Right.
Right now, I've given you 2 checkpoints. Left wrist is number 1, because if the club starts going off the tracks early in the swing, there's no chance of it getting into a reasonable spot. The great spot there at the top, it's not going to happen, right? Check number 1. Let's just at least get that. I've given you a couple of drills here with this, with the club shaft, with the 4-square drill we talk about, the left wrist video I talk about. And then the second one, once that's on the track, you just know how to get from that takeaway position to here. You know how to get into an absolutely perfect position at the top, as simple as you can make it, the fewest moving parts, right? We just did that in the 5 minutes backswing. So the whole sequence is, once I know that takeaway is right, how do I get from here to there? And that's where we go back to that pump drill, because once you preset everything, get into here, go down to address, and you're making a proper takeaway, to connect the dots from here to here is super simple, because you've already figured out the hardest part is to get the club moving and getting it going on the right tracks, which is just doing way less than you were doing before. Then to get from there to there, using that 5 minutes of perfect backswing drill is a piece of cake. You just keep moving, keep the momentum, let it keep going up. So let's see if you can put the 2 together, takeaway only. You got that right, keep going to the top, and then we're going to start blending this as all one smooth motion as we get comfortable with that takeaway. Okay. So a little bit more elevation. Remember, imagine that club's out here, your favorite pet's right here. Don't hit your favorite pet. Bingo. Yeah. Bingo.
That was a little close.
That's okay. I've only, believe it or not, I've been teaching 24 years now. I've been hit twice by a golf club in 24 years. That's pretty good, as close as I sit to the club. There you go. And one of them was a little kid. I don't really fault him for that. The other one was some guy machine gunning balls and not listening to a damn thing I said. There you go. Yep. Left hand only. If I made you take your right hand off the club right here, where would you put the shaft? Not over here, right? Now bring your right hand up so that your left hand isn't shaking, and that's it. That's how you get on playing at the top. That's how you get that spot, and how you check it. Go up there left hand only, drop your right hand off. If all of a sudden the club moves, you know that that right hand was putting you in a position where it was compromised, because it could do it. It can take over. It's very strong, it's very coordinated, right? This guy not so much, especially in this plane and this angle that it's moving with your body. Good. There you go. A little bit inside during the takeaway. Favorite pets right here. Yeah. Better. getting there. I like it. All right. All right, take a look up at the screen behind you. So, we're going to use this as a very generic, simplified swing plane line. And it's not perfect because the camera angle is a little high, but this is just ballparking things.
Yep.
And we want to imagine that that club's traveling straight down here and is here, give or take, at the end of the takeaway. Now, that's actually really good because the camera's high. You should set your camera at about belt high when you're practicing. I'm holding it up, face high.
Yeah.
So that's actually pretty darn close. You see how your left arm is slightly angled in, not angled way back in, pointing behind your feet like it was before.
Yep.
So we're certainly in a great position here. We're in the ballpark. A little bit right here is wrist movement.
Yep.
So ideally, instead of the club going this way, I'd want the club to feel like it goes like that. So now it's just a little bit flat and deep, and that's all forearm rotation, wrist rotation, but still certainly in the ballpark here. Right here, money. A little bit flat, but just about spot on. And up here, so, night and day difference, right? Now the one on the left, you looped a little bit inside, but you were still able to recover from. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be like a password, right? Do you want the takeaway going inside like that? It's not ideal. It's extra movement, a little extra rotation of the forearms, but you still ended up here, which is way more important than what you did during the takeaway.
Right.
The takeaway determines how easy it's going to be to get up there, right?
Yeah.
How few moving parts we can put into it. But from here to there, at least from here, that club, if you just shift your weight, do all this stuff we're talking about, the rest of the stuff, the club's going to shallow out and come down on plane. From here, anything could happen. You can swing down over the top because you're already really steep, and if you try to go after one, you try to really go after it, the club's going to get even steeper. All kinds of stuff can go on from here. But the big thing is you've just made a bunch of extra moving parts. Here, you're just moving less. And this is the whole key to get you from one to the other. And being able to go out and play while you're doing this and practice while you're doing this, hit balls and do all that stuff, we just have to be in the ballpark. It doesn't have to be perfect, but on the left is pretty damn good. And I think if you look like that at the top of your swing, you'd be pretty happy because the results are going to be there when everything else falls into place because you're not having to work so stinking hard. So now, when you said, I have two different swings, now you really do have two different swings, right? Because those two look different, but you can see how much work we had to put in to really make a change in your swing, right? Like, it wasn't just like something, I hit a bad shot on the last one, I hit it on really good, that swing must have been completely different. It doesn't work like this. It's taken us an hour and a half to get here, right? That's what it really takes to get there. But now that you're there, now you just have to groove it. You just have to keep repeating. You have all the tools you need. The left wrist trick, the club trick, like these little visual feedback things that you can take to the range with you. But your buddies won't know that golfer on the left when they look at the one on the right. This is two completely different paths in golf. This guy, going to be stuck where he is, right? Always going to be chasing his tail, relying on hand-eye coordination, short game stuff, never going to have any distance. This guy, potential's unlimited. The tour pros look like this at the top, right? You look at Adam Scott, Tiger Woods, Trevor Immelman. For the most part, this is the simplest way that you could possibly move to the top of the swing, and the most part, the reason that, especially the modern guys who are coming up, you look at the Nationwide or whatever it's called now, change web.com and whatever the hell it is now. something different every week. But the young guys are all swinging like this because it's more efficient. It's easier to learn. It's faster to learn. Imagine me trying to teach somebody how to get into that position and how to reroute the club versus teaching somebody how to get here. It's literally just, that's it, you know, it doesn't get any simpler. So this is the future of golf, and doing things and digging out of the dirt, that stuff's dead. That's in the past. There's no reason to learn like that. That's like me sitting you down at a piano and saying, okay, dude, figure it out. Who the hell wants to learn playing piano by being sit there and say, oh, just practice for 5 hours and you'll figure it out on your own? It's asinine. This is faster. This is going to get you where you want to be. You just have to now practice intelligently, which is mirror work when you're at home, away from the course. When you're on the course and you're actually hitting balls, you got to really dumb it down because you're going to instantly revert back to swinging it inside or whatever. So when you go to hit balls, which will be the next step, once we can do this consistently without you having to really think at it at a conscious level, which we're not there yet, right? But once we can do this consistently, then we start introducing that ball back into there. Like, okay, we're going to make little half swings, just like 30%, just little dribblers, and then 50%, 70%, and so on. But that process needs to be gradual. You don't go straight from the parking lot to Indy 500. So let's see if we can get you to do this without seeing it. And if you can do it without having to watch yourself through the mirror and check it out and go through all the checkpoints and without all these pauses, then you can throw a ball back into the mix. And we'll start with little foam balls, and then we'll go from there. So, first, drills. Back in front of the mirror. We've only got 10 minutes. So, let's try and do it without a pause. That would be my next goal. So could you get to the top of the swing and not mess up the takeaway, at least still be in the zip code, all the way to the top without botching it? If we can do that, then we'll be ready to add some pace to the downswing. So we're out of the course. You can do as many practice swings as you want to drill it back in there. But we're out of the course now. We don't have a mirror. How are we going to get to the good spot at the top? Beautiful. That's really good. Well, awesome. Let me get that on video. I'll get a proper angle this time. One more for me. All right, let's open up here soon. I was thinking about it. All right, so I got the camera at the waist height this time. If it got any better than that, I wouldn't know how to do it. A little bit steep there, almost perfect. So this is well within the ballpark. The takeaway is actually better now doing it at speed than you did it before, but that's freaking perfect. And then there's just one little tweak here where that left wrist is actually now a little bit too cupped. Overcorrection, right? But way better here, right, than where we've been before. So ideally that club would just be a little bit smidgen over here. But that's it. I mean, from right there, we're golden. Takeaways, I can't believe, honestly, how much faster, or how much better it is when you did it at speed like that. That's not normal for sure, but no more of the club going way around over here and then across and all that stuff. This is really, really good. So now, the thing that we'd want to be able to do is come down from there, right? That's obviously the next big goal. You can get there now, and shockingly, you can do it very quickly, which is not normal. So you can do it at pace without having to drill a bunch to get it there. So the catch is when you make that transition to where, okay, now I'm actually going to swing down, our focus, our minds tend to get consumed with the ball, the results, the downswing, speed, all that stuff, and we lose all the focus on all the good stuff we did in the backswing. So my suggestion for how to start to get to the point where you can hit balls doing this is to do exactly what you just did, make your takeaway, and stop, and just make sure it's right, and then come down.
Mm-hmm.
If you just kind of do it all as one motion, the tendency is going to be for you to go back to your old habits because, you know what I'm saying? Because you're just going to instantly, your focus changes, right?
Yeah.
So let's try and go to the top, stop. If it's still good, I'm going to tell you to come down. And then we're going to get to the point where we make that pause smaller and smaller. And then the ball is ready to be introduced.
So no ball, just come down.
Yeah, no ball yet. Like I said, we'll throw a foam ball in there because these are really great intermediate steps. I have to put them up there because my dog eats them. Yeah, I don't know if you felt it there, because you made like a bunch of corrections there at the top. So go to the top, pause. There you go. So I want you to go to the top and kind of gather yourself and go through your little checkpoints right now, because you kind of went like this and your arms got ready to fire. And as soon as they got ready to fire, they go back into the way that they know how to. Okay. Good. Now come down. Good. That's the way you're going to do it. Is pause it first and then come down. Check it. It should feel the same. It should look the same. Nice. Good. Really good. Put that little yellow demon in there. Pause at the top. Same thing. Go through your checkpoint. Nope.
Amazing.
One change, instantly the shaft was off. Yes. Better. There you go. So immediately, just by placing a ball there, and it's a foam ball, right? Our brain, people ask me all the time, like, oh yeah, that's great, you can get anybody to swing like a pro, but when are they going to hit a damn ball? You can't yet.
Right.
I didn't do anything different. I got you to move to a perfect position at the top, as good as any pro on the planet. And then as soon as we put a foam ball there without even being allowed to hit it yet, you went right back to your old habits, right? That's why I want you to always pause at first. It may take you 5 minutes, it might take you 5 days to get to the point where you don't have to put that pause in there, right? But you can make the pause pretty mellow. Like go to the top, just kind of take your time to get to the top. You don't have to ball with your backswing right now, so just take it easy, and then come down. But it has to be going to the same spot. It can't revert back to your old habits. So really focus on the backswing. Make sure that's perfect. You have to, if you have to think through the takeaway or whatever you're having to focus on right now to achieve that position at the top, just make sure that that's your number one priority.
Right.
The downswing stuff's already going to, we're going to be well within the ballpark there, but we cannot worry about ball, downswing, speed, ball flight, all that stuff until we're in the same spot every time at the top. Make sense?
Yep.
All right, let's try it again. Nope. Yep. Good. So when I say nope, you go back to the hands going inside, the club going steep, and then starting to get across the line if you made a full swing.
Right.
And then as soon as you correct it, you instantly go back to adding elevation, keeping the club outside. So.
And when you said nope, where did I screw it up? Was it within the first couple inches?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's happening too fast for even me to see that in the naked eye. But this wrist instead of turn, this little bit of movement here gets the club moving a lot really fast. So you kind of feel like, oh, I'm gonna do a lot. But this feels like it's freaking taking a while for the club to even get going, Whereas you can just do this, and like, oh, shoot, my backswing's halfway done. Be patient during that first part of the swing. Give your big muscles time to wind up, to start to move the club, to start to create momentum. Don't just get it fixated. And this is where people usually lose it when they introduce a ball, is because all they care about is this and that. Instead, what you have to care about is this, and this will take care of that automatically. go a little bit inside in the takeaway. So now you're starting to trace an arc going like this instead of out here during the takeaway. There you go. Your swing is going to feel like it's wider and it takes longer to get to the top. There you go. Good. Versus just picking it up and snatching with the wrist. That's easier to do. So that's why everybody does it, right? You pick up the club, we do everything with our daily life with our hands, you just, snatch the club, and now all of a sudden the swing's terrible. So one more good one. So elevation, you're going to have to feel that wrist, the club's going out this way. And you can practice with this drill when you're hitting balls. And if you need, because this is something you can kind of catch out of your periphery, even if you're not looking at it, right? But this will just be like you're on the range. I got this little visual reminder of the club pointing out over there. There you go. Good. Way better during the takeaway that time. So just having these little, that's why I don't like training aids for the most part, because as soon as you take them away, you just go right back to your old crap. But stupid, simple stuff like this that you can catch and kind of trick your subconscious without you having to think about, okay, Chuck said I got to elevate, stay in box 2. Just by having this little trick there, your brain starts instantly doing that, but doing it at a subconscious level. You're not thinking about it, but because that visual reminder is there, you'll start to keep that club in box 2 without having to think about it. So, does all this stuff make sense?
Absolutely.
So we just got the backswing stuff. Like, there's definitely stuff I want to do in the downswing at some point with you in the future, but at least right now, you can get to world-class position at the top, and the downswing stuff will start to fall into place without you having to think about it. But you have to get this stuff right. In the ballpark. It's in the ballpark, we're golden, but it's really good. I mean, this is beautiful. Seeing the takeaway here, I love it. Maybe our new screenshot for the homepage. Yeah. Any questions for me?
So,
Questions?
quickly,
comments, thoughts?
everything we did today, in the real swing, where is it with relation to weight shift on the backswing? So,
okay.
does weight shift occur and then we start this, or is weight shift a continuous process up to the top?
It's happening a little bit. Simplest way to think about this is this way. What's the first thing to move in the downswing? What's the whole trigger for the downswing?
In the downswing, it's the weight shift.
Weight shift, right?
Right.
So if you want that to move first, to start going the other direction, then it makes sense that it actually has to move first to kind of get everything going, because it needs to change gears even while the club's still going back, and you got to start getting ready to go back the other way, right? Now that's a very subtle difference.
Yep.
But the reality is you can't do this and then shift.
Right, right.
You need to shift right away, start shifting right away. And again, it's not like you do 100% of your weight shift and by the time the takeaway's done. It's gradual. But the weight shift and a little bit of rotation is kind of what helps get the club moving. You're moving the club with your big muscles. If you don't use weight transfer or pressure, however you want to define it, and rotation, then you're going to have to get handsy and armsy with it. So weight shift is the first thing that I use to trigger the swing, because it's the first thing I'm going to use to trigger the downswing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So when that trigger is done, how much do you think you've weight shifted? You know.
I have to measure it again.
But
I used to
does it feel like
stuff,
it's 20%, or does it feel like it's 80%, or?
Quite a bit. I mean, I shift my weight to the right a little bit more than, like, the average tour pro is somewhere between like 70 and 85% at maximum weight shift in the backswing, which happens just before the transition. I'm at 85%, so I shift a lot.
Right.
I want all that momentum to help me use that to move the club. So I don't have any problem shifting a little bit more and using that momentum to both help me going that way and help me starting the downswing. So during the first part of the swing, I may shift 50% to the right.
Okay.
There's no hard and fast rule to it, right? But what you're really trying to do with weight shift is the stuff I talk about on the site, but also just think about it for creating momentum. Let's get that club swinging versus you having to be tight and moving it and positioning it and holding it and manipulating it, right? I want it to swing. So if I just get a little bit of momentum that way with some shift and some turn, all of these things start to fall into place and I don't have to manipulate the club anymore.
Right.
So I use a lot of weight shift because it's just free speed. It's energy, right? I'm moving, that creates energy, it creates momentum for the club, which takes it out of my hands. And the more I can take out of my hands, the more consistent of a golfer I am.
Right. That's great. Yeah, I was kind of wondering the degree to which it was, like a discrete move and you got some percentage over and then you start versus, it's all just a gradual up to that 85% at the very, very top.
Both are acceptable. I like to shift a little bit more, a little bit earlier, for the reasons that I mentioned, because
Right.
I want that to be ready to go before I finish at the top, right? If I'm still shifting as I gradually go to the top, I can, but then I gotta kind of wait at the top to get my hips going first, and they need time. This is the biggest bone structure in your body. And there's so many muscles that attach to this. You really have to kind of be patient to get that, as I call it on the site, the dump truck and the drag racer, right?
Yep.
The dump truck needs some time to get that momentum going the other direction. So I'm going to give it a little bit of a head start at the beginning so that it's easier for me to get it going the other way down. And you'll see some guys on tour nowadays, they'll kind of do this.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's the same thing, like it's just disjointed or whatever. Nothing wrong with doing that. Some guys on the site actually, they asked me, can I just start with my weight on the right
Yeah,
side?
that was me a couple of weeks ago.
You can, but you're losing all the momentum.
Right.
Momentum is really the point, because the momentum gives you a swing instead of a hit.
Right.
Right. So yeah, I like to use it just to get the swing going, and the more the merrier at the beginning. It's kind of hard to overdo that unless you really just made like a big pelvic slide or something, which we're not doing.
Right.
So.
Okay. Well, great. Yeah. Really wanted to get your view on that. So.
Cool. Anything else? Questions, comments? Did all this stuff make sense? Feel helpful? Get you on the right track?
We'll see. I mean, for sure, it all made sense, without question. The really valuable coming here and having you, explain. Here I am thinking I'm doing rotation, elevation, flexion properly, and I wasn't even really coming close. So it absolutely makes sense. I've just been kind of doing it wrong.
Yeah. It's really important that you pay attention to the little stuff. The reality is 99% of the time when I have somebody who's going through the site and they're like, man, there's something that's missing, every single time, at least 99% of the time, they're just adding stuff. And the reality is that when you do this right, it feels so simple. It feels like there's so little movement that you don't trust it at first.
Yeah.
Like, no, I got to do something with my hands. I got to set my rhythm. You don't. You just got to do what, as we showed you, by getting you to do less and less and less and less and less with everything. The clubs start getting better and better and better and better all the way to the top. So that's the number one thing I see all the time, is that people don't pay attention to the little details of like this wrist joint. This video, the quickest way to fix your takeaway. The 5 minutes of perfect backswing, you're doing it like this, right? You missed where I was talking about, hey, you need to be able to block your right eye with your view, and then when you hinge forward, keep this relationship. So that stuff is all there on the site, but now that you've gone through it in person, you go back and watch those videos, it's going to be like going from black and white to 4K HD.
Yeah, right.
Like, oh my God, he did say that, but I just didn't think it was that important, or just didn't really catch it, or didn't pay much attention. The videos will totally pop completely different to you now. So,
Excellent.
anything else?
Right. Yeah.
Cool, man. Thank you so much for coming up. Enjoy your stay in Colorado.
Really looking forward to it.
Thanks so much.